Okay, in the last class we have started module 2 hardware design. In that chapter 4 processors and memory hierarchy we have started. In the last class first session the chapter concept was design space of processors. In that we have studied a graph. In that clock speed against CPI, the space utilized by CISC type of processors and RISC type of processors, and finally we concluded that RISC type of processors will take less CPI, also they will provide a more clock speed, hence we will get efficiency more. So that was a conclusion from the graph. Okay, and we also see the differences between RISC and CISC which we have studied from our CO subject. Okay, and we have studied instruction pipelines. In that 5 subpoints called instruction pipeline cycle, that is a definition, issue latency, issue rate, simple operation latency, and we have seen three graphs. In that base scalar processor and 2 cycles per instructions issue and twice the base cycle architectures we have seen, and we have studied also the instruction set architectures. In that Harvard and von Neumann architectures differences we have seen, where a common cache or common memory will be reserved for instruction as well as data. In the other architecture, separate instruction cache and separate data cache was reserved. That we have finished in the last class. Okay, so now let's go for RISC scalar processors. So here I am adding a few of the important points and also the instructions which I felt as important, and I would like to give one small suggestion which I have collected from other colleges. Okay, so please refer, if you have a textbook hard copy or a soft copy. In every chapter we have case study, like they will take when they want to explain a RISC scalar processor, what are the RISC scalar processors in the market, and they will take individual like SPARC, Motorola, AMD, and they will give diagram of each processor, but in examination no case study will be asked. Okay, so no need to study separately SPARC, no need to study separately Motorola, no need to study separately AMD 29000 processors diagram, but in general we have to study what the features of general RISC scalar processors. Okay, so if you open up a textbook with the page number 155, you will get a diagram called Motorola MC 68040 processor and its diagram. In our 8086 we have studied 8086 architecture, that was a general, but now since it is advanced computer architecture, they have explained individual processors architecture. So that as I discussed with the other college staff, they said no need to discuss or no need to explain all those case studies. Those are only for selected discussions, like who want to work on or who want to attend some interview only related to Motorola. That time he has to study architectures of all Motorola processors, like that. Okay, so now I am taking the general points about RISC scalar processor. All RISC processors are scalar by default. Okay, so all RISC processors are scalar, but when the technology has evolved, they tried to develop vector RISC processors also. Few they attained or achieved, but sometimes the performance what they expected was not reached. Maybe in the market near future we may get a RISC vector also. Okay, means vector processor also. So what do you mean by scalar? One instructions per cycle execution. If one cycle required to execute one instruction, such instruction or such processor is called as scalar processor, and all scalar defaultly belongs to RISC architecture. Okay. Okay, next point about comparison is both RISC and CISC processors will try to execute in similar clock rate. Okay, but it depends upon the application. Say for example, we are executing one graphics program and another side we are executing C program. Definitely graphic programs need to work on pixels. So once pixels is there, we cannot say one picture is simple 1 or 2 pixels. If you take a moving or some kite or some garden photo, we will get lakhs or crores of pixels. Processing pixels which are present in single image is different from processing one C program. So here different applications will need different clock rate, but same application on RISC and CISC will generally take same amount of clock rate. Okay, same application we should compare. Next, the third point about RISC scalar processors is RISC scalar processor shifts less frequently used instructions. So that means if we have wrote a program which consisting of 200 lines, in that hardly 3 times I have used an instruction called as rotate. So that is called as less frequently used. If I have wrote a program of 200 lines in which rotation is only 3 times, but move we can expect it more than 100 times, that is called as more frequently used instruction. So here less frequently used instruction means, as the example I have given, out of 200 lines of a program, rotation is only 3 times, so that is called as frequently executing instruction. Those execution shifted towards the software. So what do you mean by execution towards a software? So here basically we have two components called software and hardware. Okay, so now we should try to develop a program in which software should take more workload than hardware. So what happens if we try to develop a product or a project where we need more more workload on a hardware, means we will get more cost. Say for example, we have developed one security algorithm or security for a room entry based on face recognition. Here if the software is very smart, it needs only one component called as camera. So camera will captures a photo of a person and it is given back in the backend for DB. It will matches and it will allows to open the door, open the door and allows the person only if matching is successful, otherwise the unauthenticated access, that type of error it will be gives. Here the comparison and all things are done by software program. Instead one more person has developed where he is using more number of sensors, actuators, cameras and all. So definitely what happens here, software will do less work because we have definitely we have hardware. So if hardware is more in quantity or working or workload, so software will be idle for maximum time. Everything is done by hardware. Okay, what is the problem if we increase the hardware? If one component gets failed, so we need to replace then use. If it is a software has a concept called as reusability. Reusability means just by changing some lines of a source code, we can directly start the execution. So here also one more problem with more workload on hardware is total cost of the system we cannot reduce, because if we cannot manufacture a sensor on our own, we have to buy it from some supplier or producer or manufacturer. So what we have to do is we have to buy one camera, we have to buy many number of sensors, we have to buy many number of actuators, so definitely cost will be increases. As hardware increases, power consumption increases. If power consumption increases, execution cost of that project will also increases. So always a good product or good project which is in terms of embedded should have more workload on software, less workload on hardware. You can imagine today's computer with old computers. Old computers were room size in the room bulk size in like in terms of room size. So there the technology or working was more workload shifted towards the hardware. Why the computer size is getting shrinked today is because computer operating system or system software becoming more and more intelligent. So because of that, and also technology in the hardware, they are trying to reduce the size of a computer, thereby the workload of program execution is more on software than on the hardware. Hence RISC scalar processors, this point is very important, that's why I am taking one or two example. RISC scalar processors made computer technology as a different evolution, where first time workload was shifted from hardware towards the software. So it is just like by sitting on a chair getting more works done, instead doing ourselves the work. If workload is more on a hardware, imagine we are doing maximum work, less thinking. But if we have a software doing more works, that means physically we are not doing, just mentally we are getting all the works done successfully. So here you can imagine ATM machine. Earlier days person used to visit a bank, get the cash, but now all the printing, updating the bank account, everything is done by machine, which is a software. Here person is getting money very faster than old days, like visiting a bank, waiting in the queue, writing a slip. Those all activities are reduced now. What is the only thing is insert a card, give the password, enter the amount, that's it. Here with less amount of time we are getting work done, because software is intelligent than the hardware. So this point is very important. Okay, so now what is one more important feature about RISC scalar processor is instruction level parallelism is achieved. Hope you all remember the dependency graph, Bernstein's conditions of parallelism. Okay, in that 6 or 5 P we are given, P in the sense processes, equations, A is equal to B plus C, like that, and we try to write or develop dependency graph. In that we identified some of the instructions we can execute in parallel, so that is called as instruction level parallelism. Simple, what is the advantage of executing instructions parallelly rather than executing task parallelly is, as we implement more level of parallelism in instruction level, so definitely we can think about multi-processors or multi-computers. So the today technology, multi-processors or multi-computers, because of that we can get high-speed internet, more number of works done, like a seat reservation in within a 1 minute, bank transaction within a 1 minute. Those all are possible just because the architecture helped old days, called instruction level parallelism. If that case was not executed those days, today we would have took 1 hour to reserve a seat, even though we are using through internet. So might be that is a possible. Okay, so here instruction level parallelism was the best and the very important development which was supported by RISC scalar processors. Hence today's technology is evolved up to this much level. Okay, some of the examples who developed different RISC scalar processors are SPARC, Motorola. Actually Motorola developed a microprocessor also, microcontroller also. The processor it is developed under RISC scalar is called M88100, and the next one is AMD 29000. So these all were the different manufacturers. Okay, So now you can think what happened because of the RISC technology. So code there was one small drawback is code in the RISC will be more. Code in the sense number of instructions will be more, but execution speed will be fast even though length is more. Okay, but certain cases like recursion and all, definitely it will take minimum time or minimum extra time. But thing is even though we have a good technique called as RISC, the code length will be more, but that doesn't affected performance. Contrary, the more instruction length actually increased performance, because if I write one complex CISC, means one program in a CISC, that means each instruction will be what? Complex type. So how you have learnt multiplication in your first standard or second standard? So generally what happens, how to teach a multiplication is, we will try to define multiplication in terms of addition. So I will give the definition: 2 into 3 is equal to 6. Okay, now we are we studied, so we are writing it as a 6, but how we learnt 2 into 3 is 6, as the definition was like this: 2 should be added with the same 3 times. 2 plus 2 plus 2. So that means what? 2 is the original number into, then whatever I write 3, those many times I have to add the number with itself. So that is what definition. See, now for a kid of second standard, 2 into 3 is complex. How it will solve? It will try, the kid will try to reduce the problem complexity to his own knowledge, like 2 should be added with itself 3 times. So what it will do? 2 2 2, it keeps plus a symbol between the 2, and it will get a result as 6. So we might have also studied here 2 into 3 is a complex, but when we reduce it, length will be more. But which operation is very fast in execution is plus. Between plus and star, plus will execute faster. Even though length is more, we can sure that answer will be correct, plus we will get answer faster in the execution. That is what one idea, that is results of RISC technology. Second, full utilization of all resistors. Okay, it is one theoretical point they are mentioning. Most of the time we have already used. See, you can remember our ARM subject lab, last 2 programs of part A and part B. There we have used R0 to R12 as a general purpose resistor, R13, R14, R15, those all were CPSR something, you remember. Okay, so full utilization of all resistors was possible in RISC technology, but it was some shortfall in the CISC technology. See, in 8086 SP, BP, those resistors we were unable to use. SP indicates a stack pointer, BP indicates a base pointer. It was a CISC architecture, we were unable to use. Even though we call it as a resistor, we cannot load a values and use it in the program. We have to accept whatever the values they consist of. But here in the RISC technology, it is allowed, we can use all the resistors, full utilization. Next one. So because of RISC, I mentioned is in the previous, multiprocessors were supported. Because of RISC, multiprocessors were supported. Since multiprocessors were supported, same task is shared among different or multiple number of processors. So if multiple number of processors doing same work, definitely individual processor will get less workload. Simple, lifting a 5 kg weight, one person if he lifts, he will get full workload. If the same weight is shared by 2 students, we will assume that each person is lifting 2.5. Instead of only 2, let us give the weight to lift for 5 members. So each may be lifting around 1 kg. So that is what their effort. That means work is getting reduced because there are multiple processors participated in execution. Okay, since there are multiple processors, definitely they need to communicate with each other, and there exists a concept called as intra-process communication or inter-processor communication. Okay, sorry, it is inter-process communication. Here there are multiple processors. If there are multiple processors, they should communicate with each other. So that is possible only when we have a protocols. Okay, in your embedded systems you have studied IPC by message passing technique, etc. Okay, synchronization technique. There we have how each processor communicates with other processors. So that is also possible. Since there are multiple processors, the process synchronization concept get into existence. So what is importance of synchronization? If the multiple processes are executing among multiple processors which they are communicating with each other, defaultly it is meaning that all processes got synchronization. See here, one example I would like to give: annual sports or in a college. So what actually happening is, annual sports, all students are participating, all staff are conducting the sports. Okay, so since if there is a no synchronization among all activity, all student, all type of games, then what happens? A student will never get a chance to participate completely. So to avoid such a situation, what we will do, we will prepare one timetable for the game. So what we will do, from this date to this date, this time to this time, this game will be there, after that this game, like that we will put up one timetable. So what happens that time? It is called a synchronization. There will be particular time event. After this game, second game will start, after second, third will start, like that we will make a synchronization so that all can participate, and between one staff to second staff we can easily say, see, if game 1 is not yet finished, no need to communicate with game 3, game 4 umpires. We can directly communicate with game 2 and say that we need 10 minutes extra so that we can finish a game, and we will send the remaining student to second game, like that. So this is all possible because of RISC technology. See, just think your computer without these all facilities. So it is simply like serial input, serial output register, which will do only one work at a time. If it is doing one work at a time, today's ATM system, artificial intelligence, machine learning, then online transactions, online movie watching, everything was not possible to implement. So today's all computer technology happened because of RISC technology took place. Next one is user interface. That means easier user interface. You can think just ATM, cash withdrawal in the bank, cash withdrawal from the ATM, which is easier. ATM will be easier because no need to write the slip, waiting in the queue in front of a bank, or no need to visit a branch only, particular branch only. So now what you can do is you can withdraw from any bank ATM. That is also one kind of facility that happened because of computer was developed with RISC technology. These all are the advantages of RISC technology. So next type of processors are superscalar and vector processors. Okay, this is also one of the main topic. Okay, in that I am taking first concept as superscalar processors. Okay, superscalar processors means it is designed for more instruction level parallelism. In the just previous slide I have mentioned instruction level parallelism is achieved because of the RISC scalar. Definitely, what do you mean by RISC superscalar means? Whatever is a scalar concept, that should be enhanced. What is a scalar's first point? Instruction level parallelism. So super in the meaning what? More parallelism. So that is what definition of superscalar processors. Okay, so now you can see one important point here before I could start this diagram explanation. Degree of parallelism. Okay, degree of processor's parallelism, that is mentioned by variable m. Okay, so how much will be the parallelism, those many will execute. Okay, I will try to give the idea of this diagram. You have studied in your CO about instruction pipeline: fetch, decode, execute, write back. These are the 4 minimum phases in executing any instruction: fetch, decode, execute, write back. So here fetch means take the data, decode means give the another meaning without altering its effect, execute means perform the operation, write back means store the result in destination area. So here the degree, superscalar processor's degree is verified or calculated by how many particular executes it can do in single instance of a time. Single instance of a time, where single instance of a time is called as base cycle. Base cycle. See here, one diagram we have given from this book is a superscalar processor of degree m equal to 3. That means what? 3 execution it can do in a same time. As I mentioned, M3 indicates it can execute 3 instructions in. As we go for more value for M, we can expect more instructions in execute itself. See, if we have single processor which has a degree of execution as 1, that means M as 1. So what we can expect? Fetch, decode, execute, write. So below first instructions decode, next instructions fetch, decode, execute, write back. Hope you remember the execute getting shifted towards the right. So that is a scalar, pure scalar with the degree m equal to 1. Here what happens? Scalar, as the m increases it becomes super scalar. So if it is superscalar, execute will become 3 or more. If when it can execute 3 at a time, it can perform 3 decode, it can perform 3 fetch, it can perform 3 write back. But one problem here is, among the 3 which we supplied for execute should be independent. Those should not be dependent. Check for Bunsen's condition. Among 200 instructions, identify which 3 are independent and supply them in very first instance. Very first instance doesn't mean 0 to 1, it means 0 to 4, because 0 to 4 there are 4 activities. All those 4 activities each will take single instance of a time. So we cannot perform execute unless we finish decode success. Unless we finish a fetch, we cannot start a decode. That means what? To execute any instruction, decode is compulsory. To perform decode, fetch is compulsory. That means we cannot expect output very immediately after starting of a computer. That means computer will never give output at 0th second. Computer will start giving output only at after second base cycle. What happens before second base cycle is, one is decode, little before that is fetch. So how many execute it can do, those decode, those many fetch we can perform. So that is what meaning of this concept. Okay, so how we can justify it is a superscalar? Because it has a facility, or it has a feature to execute or to perform 3 execute in single time, hence it is a superscalar. Okay, so it is designed for more instruction level parallelism. Here what you mean, how you have attained a parallelism is, see this dark area here, 3 instructions got executed, so that is what we call it as parallelism. Okay, that is what we called it as parallelism. Okay, fine. So I took one concept as an example, which is a RISC processors architecture. Okay, RISC processor architecture. When I have superscalar RISC processor architecture, which supports both integer and float. Okay, both integer and float. here. Okay, here is one superscalar RISC processor architecture. Okay, here we have superscalar RISC processor architecture. It consists of integer unit and floating point. Okay, I took this as a case, even though it is a case study, I have took this to explain you because the concept is important. Here let me explain simple blocks. Instruction memory. So here the instruction memory means where we have group of instructions stored. Okay, so next we have is instruction cache. So where selected instructions from instruction memory loaded onto cache. So why the word selected I have used is, if I say instruction memory, it includes all, but if I say instruction cache, understand that next executable few. Please remember the difference between memory and cache. Memory means all, cache means few which are about to execute very shortly, not delayed. So that's what. So cache will identify whether it is an integer type or a floating type. So if it is an integer type, it will gives it to first block. Okay, where the cursor I am moving, that is a first block, integer unit. Please check here, integer unit for RISC. If instruction is float, then what it will do? It will forwards it to the second block in the sense lower side. Okay, so assume it is a integer type. So once it is decided that integer type, instruction will be decoded as integer type. Okay, so why we should differentiate between integer and float is, integer means 2 bytes, float means 4 bytes. So definition of 4 bytes, working on 4 bytes will be time consuming than working on 2 bytes. You have studied in your system software format 3 instruction and format 4 instruction. Format 4 instruction opcode is more than format 3 instruction opcode, 24 bits and 40 bits. I think you remember. Okay, 24 bits and 40 or 32, please make it sure. Okay, so if it is a integer and if processor identify wrongly as a float, please listen carefully, an instruction is integer, processor identified wrongly as float, so you are doing example 3 into 6, but you have processor has identified it as 3.0 into 6.0. answer is same as 18. Okay, but execution time will be more for float than integer. So here unnecessarily your CPI, clocks per instruction, will be wasted. So that should not happen. Generally it will not happen, but architecture should have separate working procedure for integer, separate working procedure for float. So this explanation what I have given is what happens if I don't have separate separate engine for integer and float. Okay, so say we want to multiply 3.2 into 2.5 and we don't have a floating point architecture. So what it will do that time? It considers 3.1 as 3, 2.5 as 2, hence 2 into 3 answer will be 6, which the answer is wrong. So we should have both integer engine and float engine. So these all are sub actions, you know already: load, store, shift, left shift, right shift, rotation. ALU means arithmetic work or logical work. Branch, where to jump from, jump to, those all will be done. So these will give some answer that is going to store in data cache. So 2 and 3. Okay, say assume 2 into 3. So what is the work? Arithmetic work, hence it is ALU. 2 into 3, what is the answer? 6. 6, where it will go? 6 will be the new answer, hence 6 will be stored. Where to store is address, what to store is 6, those data will be stored. If you have 2.5 into 3.5, that time what happens? This part will not execute. So what it will execute is here, because it is definite. What is definite now? Both are floats. So what is the work now? Multiplication. 2.5 into 3.5. So what is the new answer? Float answer will be taken and it will be given for float data. So the word concept here is how superscalar processor should able to differentiate whether data is only integer type or data is float type. Don't approximate and perform. It has to perform accurate to get correct result. Okay, fine, thank you.